Apple's mission, their real core purpose on this earth, is really quite simple. It's to think hard and innovate and design the most effective ways to make money. And ultimately, the way to figure out what the consumer wants is through looking at the numbers, through looking at the data, and thanks to CIRP, or Consumer Intelligence Research Partners, we now have a decent idea as to what the everyday consumer is actually buying from what is still Apple's bread and butter today, the iPhone. Let's begin. So this breakdown compares the launch of the iPhone 16 series versus the iPhone 17 series, and you'll see, as I've reported on this channel for quite a while, that the Pro Maxes are definitely still the most popular singular trim. However, with the last big upgrade cycle, the iPhone 17 Pro series, they actually started exceeding the majority of people buying. So compared to the iPhone 16 series, when that launched, about 40% of iPhone buyers were getting the 16 Pro or Pro Max. But then after the switch to the ugly aluminum that so many people were complaining about, because I need my titanium, it feels better in the hand. It's worse for thermals, but titanium's just the more expensive, more premium material. Yep, not that many people upgraded when that was the headlining feature, especially with Apple Intelligence. That was kind of a flop of a feature and a year, but when it comes to the iPhone 17 Pro series switching to the cheap, lighter aluminum material, over 50% of iPhone buyers spec'd up for the 17 Pro and Pro Max, the most expensive iPhones in the lineup. I guess because they wanted the best possible camera, maybe they liked the appeal of vapor chamber, and perhaps just knowing overall that the cameras have never been better and the battery life has never been better was enough to get people to sway over. What's really funny though in the breakdown is the iPhone Air, because this one got a lot of attention during the iPhone release cycle. Of course, it's the first iPhone we've had in a long time that didn't have a number following it. It felt kind of special and unique. That felt like sort of the one more thing moment last year, and yet looking at the sales data, the iPhone Air actually sold worse than the iPhone it replaced, the iPhone 16 Plus. For several years now, Apple has not been able to find a way to have like 4 really good selling iPhone models. Typically, they can narrow it down to 3. So they get the Pro and the Pro Max. That usually ends up being some of the most popular segment. And then the regular iPhone, like in this case, the iPhone 17, also tends to sell pretty well, over 20. And sometimes it goes back and forth between the entry-level model and the cheaper of the Pro variant. So it seems like a lot of the masses like that little 6-inch display, but then Apple keeps trying to find another flagship to squeeze into the lineup. Something more expensive than the regular iPhone 17, but not quite a Pro. And it looks like, at least according to the data, that they may have been better off just making a basic 17 Plus, which would enable, you know, a 6.5-inch display that also is 120 hertz. Maybe that's one way to interpret this data. Like the 17 Pro Max is selling so well because at the end of the day, people just want the biggest possible screen and they want the nicest possible screen. And I guess because the iPhone Air compromised too much in battery life and camera, people just weren't falling for that. They were like, no, at that price, I would rather just get a Pro, which maybe could just be Apple's take on the Decoy effect. Decoy effect meaning like trying to get people to find the Pro Max a better deal because the phones that are cheaper than it just don't seem like that great of a value. So in some ways, you could look at the iPhone Air as genius because it basically made the Pros seem a lot more reasonable. So the narrative from all the reviewers and all the journalists and the media was that, iPhone Air, kind of expensive, not really worth it, especially when for only $100 more, you could get a Pro, and therefore the consumer ends up just spending more money anyway. Maybe the iPhone Air is just another form of advertisement, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the folding iPhone ends up following a similar trajectory, just in a different way. See, everyone's pretty much expecting that the folding iPhone will be the most expensive iPhone in the lineup. Of course, it adds a hinge, there's more screens, there's more complexity. It won't be a big shock to me if it's a $2,000+ iPhone, but similarly to what the iPhone Air has done, if the narrative around the folding iPhone, which probably will get the most attention, it's like one of the most exciting iPhone releases in a long time. Lots of people going to be watching reviews and they want to know what the journalists and the media think. If the running narrative from everybody is, well, the folding iPhone's kind of cool, but the compromises in battery life and camera aren't worth it when for less money you could get a Pro Max. Now this is a genius move for Apple because they make the 18 Pro Max look like the cheaper option. option. In reality, it's probably still going to be, you know, a $1,200 plus iPhone, but the folding iPhone might change the narrative to the point that it looks like the far more reasonable choice in the lineup. And maybe once again next year, we're going to see the Pro and Pro Max iPhones continue to grow in overall percentage. So it's kind of funny that Apple goes through all of this R&D and all of this engineering work to make cooler iPhones like the iPhone Air, which is super rigid and durable. And it is quite impressive how much hardware they can fit into such a thin chassis while still making it strong. But was all that money worth it if not that many people end up buying it? Well, it might be worth it to Apple if it encourages people to spend more on their iPhone, and because of the iPhone Air, it makes them more likely to consider a Pro and Pro Max. Same story with the folding iPhone. I'm sure a lot of work goes into the durability and the testing and making it strong and rigid and not wear out over time. Even though not that many people might buy it, it might still get more people to buy the Pro Max, which means in the end, still worth it to Apple. But what do you guys think? How do you interpret the sales data? What do you think it means for the future of the iPhone? For me personally, I think this means iPhones are going to continue to get thicker, and the best sellers are going to be the ones with the best camera and the best battery life, regardless of how they look, because so many people thought the 17 Pro Max was like the ugliest Pro iPhone in years, and yet so many people are still interested in buying one because ultimately we're all going to throw a case on those things anyway, right? All those thoughts, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.